Hey guys, it's Heather from Here She Grows, and it's garlic planting day. So I thought I'd take you through how I plant my garlic in raised beds. And I'm also going to be harvesting my rutabaga. So really excited about the rutabaga too, because this is my first year growing it, and I grew it specifically for one holiday, for Thanksgiving. My family, rutabaga is it always has to be there. If it's not Thanksgiving, if we do not have mashed rutabaga on the table. And I remember when I got married, my husband's family called it turnip, and we'd never referred to it as turnip. And then I come to find out that it's rutabaga. They call it turnip, we called it rutabaga. So I'm going to be harvesting that. First, let's get to the garlic. This year I'm going to be planting it in my Vego Garden raised beds instead of my cedar box beds. And I have two 6-in-1 raised beds here and here. I'm only going to be planting in this one. These are 17-inch raised beds, and if you're interested in ordering Vego beds, they're wonderful for small spaces. This is a 6-in-1 raised bed, 17 inches tall, about 2 feet wide, and you can adjust the length of them, which makes it's a beautiful thing. They really work well in any tight garden space, and it was a nice way for me to round out and use up my planting space as efficiently as possible. So I put 2 beds along the fence line here, and I've got another one just behind the camera. They're really great for making the most out of your small space garden. And this year, all my garlic is going right into this Vego bed. And I wanted to do some companion planting. This bed is edged with ever-bearing strawberries. Strawberries and garlic are great companion plants. They don't compete with each other. They don't influence the flavor of each other. Like I remember my sister-in-law talking about how she had edged out her tomato bed with strawberry plants. And she said all of her strawberries had a tomatoey taste to them. So that's not going to be the case here. They don't compete. And what's really nice is once I harvest this garlic, which I'll probably harvest sometime in July next year, harvest it, and then it opens up the space so that I can get a late season fall planting of maybe some more brassicas or whatever I decide to do next year. So I can still use this space even after I harvest. And I'm using the space as efficiently as possible and getting the most out of it. So today I'm planting a hardneck garlic called Music. I plant it every year. It is my favorite. I've tried several different varieties. I've even planted soft neck varieties, but really hardneck is your best bet in a cold climate. I'm the Chicago Zone 5B, so I always go with hardneck. And this is a great, great plant. I love the flavor of it. Very easy to grow. I find garlic very easy to grow in general, very easy to plant. I ordered from Keene Garlic this year. It's my first time ordering from them. They're out of Wisconsin, and I have high hopes for it. Last year I ordered from a different company. I was very disappointed. My end result ended up being quite small. I do think too, I planted a little too close last year. The closer you plant your bulbs, you'll get more garlic bulbs, so your yield will be higher, but the bulbs tend to be smaller. So I think last year I did like a 4-inch spacing. I'm going to stick with the 6-inch spacing because I really do like those big heads of garlic. So I'm going to do a 6-inch spacing, and when I'm spacing it, I'm simply using my fingers. I do it with corn too. I find that using the hang loose sign is about 6 inches, and it's just a great way to work through and get that 6-inch spacing because I want these to be as fat as possible. But first off, let's separate them. So to get started, all you're doing is removing this top layer, this papery skin off of your garlic head. Just peeling it away to reveal all of your little cloves here. And you can order different sizes from Keene. I believe other companies do this as well, but there's a regular size, there's a large size, and a jumbo size. So typically the larger the clove, the bigger the head you will get next year. And also how you space them will determine how large your heads will be as well. So let me just get this peeled. Once you've got that outer skin taken off, you can start separating the cloves. What you don't want to do is remove the skin that's covering each individual clove. You want to leave that intact. So let's start breaking these apart. Boy, they're really in there. Okay, there we go. Okay, there's one. Now that I've got all of my cloves separated, and they're nice beefy cloves. So general rule of thumb, the larger the clove, the larger your head will be next year. So these are a really good size. So I'm going to be planting in this bed. This is where I grew my corn all summer. And I had sugar snap peas in another bed, and I took all of the vines from that when I was cutting it down, and there were some pods that were still left in there, and I just threw it in here at the base of the corn. And lo and behold, I have a bunch of pea plants in here, which is really cool because it's extra nitrogen. So I'm going to just work that into the soil too, leave that there. I am going to grab several shovelfuls of compost to top dress this before I plant, because it's always a good idea to replenish the nutrients in your raised beds, because corn especially, really heavy feeder. So I'm going to top this with some compost and then we'll get to planting. I've worked the compost in a little bit, and right before I plant, I like to drop in a little bit of organic starter fertilizer. I like the Biotone from Espoma, and I just work it into the top layer of the soil, not too deeply. I just want some nutrients in the soil for the cloves to take from, so they've got a nice healthy start before the ground freezes. And speaking of the ground freezing, that's crucial here. You want to plant your garlic cloves at least 4 to 6 weeks before your ground freezes. So typically I shoot for by Halloween, like the end of October. I've done it a little later and things have been fine, but I'm getting a head start on it this year because it's 80 degrees today and it would be foolish to pass this up, and it's going to rain tomorrow, so it's perfect timing. So I'm just going to sprinkle this on the top, work it in lightly, and then we'll push the cloves in. So finally, last step, planting. So you want to get them so that the root plate, which is the bottom part of the soil, so your root plate is here. This is the pointy part. This is the part that should be at the top part of the soil. You want this point to be about 2 inches from the surface. So it's really easy to just push them in, especially when you've got really workable soil like I have here. And I'm just going to use that hang loose sign as my 6-inch spacing, and I'm just going to go through and space them around and see how many I can get in here. So now the last step is just pushing them down so the top part of the bulb is about 2 inches from the surface. Now, I don't want to mulch right away because I want water to get to these bulbs and water them in so they can start growing their roots. I will mulch them with several inches of shredded leaves, probably right around Christmas. That's usually my time frame, so that it's protected for the winter, and then when it starts growing again, sometime in early spring, you'll start seeing green shoots. I'll start removing those layers of mulch and as it's peeking through to give it more exposure to light. So, and you might be seeing when you're looking at my compost, you may have caught glimpses of these little, it looks like shards of plastic. So why would I put plastic in my compost, right? Well, it's not plastic. These are new containers that were introduced from Proven Winners. They are EcoBoost. I think they're called EcoBoost. I'll have to double check the name, but they're actually made of plant cellulose. So they're compostable. They also have nutrients in them so that your plants that you may be buying at your nurseries and your big box stores, a lot of them you will see in these EcoBoost pots, and I just compost them. They break up really easy. They do take a while to decompose, but it's not going to hurt the soil. So that's what you see in this bed. I see a lot of these shards because I did compost a lot of my my EcoBoost pots. So that's a nice little feature too. You don't have to worry about contributing to land waste. So that's what these little shards of plastic are in here. They're kind of all throughout. They look dangerous. They're not, they just break apart easily. But I want to show you another part of my garden that also is tied to garlic. And the cool thing about this bed is I will harvest this sometime in July, and then it leaves space for me to plant my fall crops, like my brassicas. Maybe I want to do some cauliflower, some broccoli, and it's a great time to plant because they like those cooler temperatures. So, you know, brassicas you can do, you know, early spring planting, or you plant them in the summertime and let them take advantage of the cooler weather, and then they get a little sweeter too as they're more exposed to frost. So that's what I'm going to do here. I'll harvest and then it'll leave me space to plant again, and I don't have to fiddle with monkey with moving things around so much. This will be empty once I harvest the garlic, and then we can experiment with something else. But I want to show you another part of the garlic. I want to show you another part of the garden where I had garlic and then I harvested it and it left space for something that I'm really excited about that I've never grown before. So this is rutabaga, and it's really beautiful. It's a purple top rutabaga called Eleanor. I've never grown them before, but I wanted to because it is a main part of our Thanksgiving dinner, and I thought, how cool would it be to actually grow the rutabaga we're going to serve on our Thanksgiving table. So I planted these from seed indoors back in June, started them indoors, and then once I harvest, this whole area was garlic. So I harvested the garlic and I had space to get my, my rutabaga in here. So rutabaga takes about 90 to 110 days to mature depending on your variety. This is about, I think I'm around 100 days on this, and they're definitely ready to dig. They're nice and big and beautiful. So I am going to dig these up. Because they're a member of the brassica family, they've had a good amount of cabbage moth damage. I did have to treat them with Bacillus thuringiensis, or BT, earlier in the season just to give them a head start. But once they got established, I really didn't sweat the cabbage moth issue too much. And that's the nice thing about planting a little later in the season. You don't have so much pest invasion in your garden. It just ends up being seems to be a healthier environment for growing these guys. In regard to, timing them to maturity, I did start them indoors, but I don't count those days that they spent indoors getting started towards the days to maturity. So I don't start counting days to maturity until they actually go in my garden. So if it says 90 days to maturity and I started them, let's say I started them in June, I'm not factoring in those start days as the days to maturity. I don't start counting until they're actually in here. So let's get to it and see what they look like. I think they're pretty healthy looking. I'm really excited about it. And I want to get these out before frost hits, and today's a perfect day because we've got a lot of rain in the forecast, and then the bottom's supposed to drop out. So I didn't want to risk it and have these get exposed to frost because frost will damage them. So I'm going to get them out long before. Look at this. It's my first rutabaga. So I planted my seedlings out in late July. I think it was July, August, September, October. Yeah, so that puts me right a little over 90 days, maybe not quite 100 as I said, but it was perfect. And these are harvestable from like 4 inches diameter to like a softball size. And I am right in that range. They're really heavy. Oh my goodness. Wow. All right, so there are my 4 good-sized rutabaga. I lost my audio at this point, so I was explaining how I'm going to store these. And the cool thing about rutabaga is they can store 4 to 6 months in your crisper in your refrigerator, or if you have a cool basement. So I'm simply going to clean these guys off, remove the roots, rinse off the soil, and then I'll be cutting the tops off as well. And then for storage, I wet a few paper towels and squeeze the moisture out of them, and then I wrap, after I've cleaned the rutabaga, I wrap each rutabaga up in the paper towel so that it never shrivels, because you don't want them to dry out. As they dry out, they will shrivel up and then become inedible. So that damp paper towel helps keep the moisture in. Then I put each one in its individual freezer bag with some holes in each bag so it's got some ventilation, and then seal up each rutabaga in the individual bag, and then pop them into one of the crisper drawers in my refrigerator. And then I'll just check them from time to time, and they will keep well, till Thanksgiving and even beyond. So I'll just keep checking, make sure those paper towels don't dry out, and then use them as I need them. So this will be mashed for Thanksgiving dinner. I'll probably be using 2 of them, and then I'll just go ahead and cut the tops here, and then I can go ahead and clean them off and then store them. I hope you enjoyed this video. I enjoyed making it. I was really excited about growing rutabaga for my holiday table this year. And if you like this video, please like it. And if you never want to miss a video, click subscribe and hit that little bell notification so you'll never miss a post. I post weekly. And thanks for watching, guys. And also you can hit that little red tab at the lower right of your screen. And I'll look forward to seeing you in the next one. Thanks for watching, guys, and happy gardening.